I'm Plami, and in this episode of Plami's Thoughts On, I'm gonna be actually sharing my thoughts on something a little bit different from my usual content, because usually I review stuff with, like, more substance or just more dramatic shows and movies and those kind of stuff. This is the first time when I'm actually gonna be reviewing like a comedy show, and you already know which show it is by the title of this video. It's iCarly. And specifically the reboot, or I mean, it's not really a reboot. It's I don't know what to even call it. It's not a reboot. It's not a remake. It's a continuation, a rebirth, I guess you could say it is, of iCarly in today's era. And the reason why it's in review form and not really in reaction form, it's because of a few reasons. Again, because it's very different from what I usually react to / review. Because yes, TMNT 2012 could be argued it's a very comedy focused action show, but it's still an action show. So this is the most different kind of show that I'm reviewing. So that's one of the reasons why I didn't want to react to it, and also because I didn't really know whether I was going to like it or not, and I didn't want to watch the first episode, record the first episode in reaction form, shit on it completely, and then just have me waste my time or having shit on a show that I used to love as a kid, you know? I didn't want to spread negative opinion about this if it wasn't going to be enjoyable, but luckily it was actually pretty cool, and I have quite a lot to talk about for all 3 episodes that have been released so far. So we're gonna go over all 3 episodes, and going forward, I'm almost definitely gonna be reviewing each episode. At least if there is content to actually review about the episodes, because in the case of these first 3 episodes, I honestly have a few things to say about the first episode and the 3rd episode. I didn't really enjoy the 2nd episode as much, which, funnily enough, is actually the opposite experience of most people, apparently, because a lot of people seem to not like the 1st episode, which I agree, it was the weakest one, in a way, and didn't like the 3rd episode for a different reason that I'm going to get into when we get to talking about that one, but seemed to like the 2nd episode, and I honestly don't understand why, because I feel like, to me, it just wasn't as engaging. Maybe it's just the things that I like iCarly to talk about or reference and all those other stuff. But I don't know, I just don't really enjoy it, because I saw some people say that the 2nd episode was the most like old iCarly, and I guess in a way I can agree with that. In a way it does feel like more like the original series, but I don't know, it just didn't really engage me as much as the 1st and the 3rd episode did. To me, when I was a kid, I honestly think iCarly genuinely was the reason why I decided to be a YouTuber and do this kind of stuff. Obviously, seeing other people do YouTube also influenced me, but iCarly was definitely the show that kind of put it in my head. Although, again, in a way, you can kind of have expected me to go in this direction, because when I was a kid, when I first got a phone that could actually record audio and stuff, and even before that I used to have I don't know, for lack of a better term, a radio which had a DVD player on it which could also record. And I remember with my cousin we used to record ourselves as a kid. You can kind of see how I was eventually gonna get to do this, but iCarly was definitely the thing that really made it cool for me to want to do something like this, and I've wanted to do it ever since then. So iCarly, because of that, means a lot to me. So yeah, let's start off with the 1st episode. Going into this, I actually thought it was going to start off with a very different direction and just very different setup. I thought that maybe we were actually gonna get Carly coming back in the 1st episode from where she was going at the finale of the original series, which I think it was Italy or something. And I thought maybe in this 1st episode we were going to have her come back and have a reunion with Spencer and learn what Spencer has been doing, what Freddy has been doing, learn what she has been doing in the meantime, and for her to kind of feel like she wants to do iCarly again. But it actually wasn't like that. Apparently she only spent like a year or something abroad, and she has been back in Seattle for a long time. She's been living in Seattle. She's been seeing Freddie and Spencer for a long time again. And that kind of caught me off guard, and I feel like that kind of made the episode worse in a certain way, because there was a lot of exposition in this episode that I feel like if this episode was made how I was telling you that I thought it was going to be made, with her coming back, I feel like the exposition would have felt more natural, because the characters as well would have been learning what they were doing and not having to just tell us through very, very obvious exposition. Because there's literally lines in this episode which explain that Spencer is now rich, that Freddy has a failed startup, and that he has been through 2 divorces or something and now has a kid. And that feels very forced, and that's one of the things about this episode that kind of was like, I don't know, it's not really great. It's kind of what I was fearing it was going to happen, but luckily after that first episode, and even after like the first half of this episode, the exposition kind of went away, so it wasn't annoying anymore. But it was a little rough. It was very unnatural dialogue, and with how good I remember iCarly being, I was really, really hoping that it was going to be enjoyable, and luckily it was. And yeah, that dialogue kind of scared me a little bit. There was also some lines like, which were kind of like exposition-y kind of stuff about explaining how Spencer got rich. With Freddy saying that he built a sculpture that was like the White House and it was half melted, and that was representing the destruction of of the American democracy, kind of thing. And not only did that line feel very exposition-y, it kind of felt a little forced with political stuff, which personally, it used to piss me off when politics were kind of shoved in a way where it kind of prevents me from enjoying the story. And honestly, this kind of stuff still kind of annoy me, but nowadays I'm more lenient in regards to that. And it was only that one line, honestly, that was very forced. For me, it's become more about the execution rather than the political line in of itself, because there's actually a decent amount of this kind of like political lines throughout the episodes, but I actually enjoyed them. This was the only one which felt very forced, and I think it's mostly just because of the exposition. Again, as I said, if this episode was our reintroduction along with another character's reintroduction to all the characters in this show, I think they could have handled the exposition better in that regard. But yeah, there was still actually some really, really genuinely funny lines, like Spencer remaking a sculpture with a lot of moving parts, which is from that Guinness World Book episode from the original series. There was a line that Spencer was saying that it's just the old one with more stuff in it, and that was clearly a reference that the writers were making in regards to this show, that is just the old show with just new stuff added into it. That really really made me laugh out loud, and I really liked it. Like, this kind of self-referential dialogue I really like. Like, if you've watched my reviews of the most recent season of Fear the Walking Dead, there has been a lot of that dialogue in that season, which is one of the reasons why I love that season so much. Although in the second half of the season I feel like there was less. But anyway, I really like this kind of self-aware referential dialogue, so I really enjoyed these kind of lines. And I think there were even more, but I don't remember whether I wrote them down. And even if I wrote notes when I was watching the episodes down, they're lost now, because I lost my my save file for the notes. But yeah, the first episode honestly doesn't have too much to talk about. As I said, it's probably the weakest in terms of the writing because of the exposition and everything. And the things that I don't necessarily enjoy too much, like the relationship stuff that we had in this episode with Carly losing her boyfriend and then finding another one. I don't really care too much about those stuff, so I don't really have much to say about it. But I did really, really enjoy that bit at the end with the iCarly stuff when she decided that she was gonna start iCarly again. I genuinely laughed my ass off at the Spencer baby thing. Like I haven't rewatched iCarly in a long, long time. Like I think the last time I watched iCarly must have genuinely been like at least 6, 7 years ago when I was still watching TV and I was still watching Nickelodeon. So I don't remember whether it was super funny to me back then, but I laughed my ass off at that sequence because it genuinely, with the way that Jerry Trainer, who is the actor for Spencer, for those of you who don't know, was acting that bit out. I feel like it wasn't even necessarily full-on scripted, because he genuinely let out a smile and a little bit of a laugh during that scene, so that made it even better to me. And I've seen people say that iCarly, like the web show in universe, was genuinely funny, which as a kid I honestly didn't really find funny, or it wasn't funny enough to the point where I remember enjoying it and laughing at it. But now I genuinely find it funny, and I might have an interest in rewatching iCarly in the future. So if you want me to do that, make sure to comment down below, because showing that there's a demand for something, some kind of a video, definitely makes me more likely to do it. And donating to Patreon as well. But yeah, I really enjoyed that beat at the end, and I just love how Carly says, "It seems like we never left," and I really like that. It was a decent first episode, not the best and not the smartest in terms of how I think it would have been best to do it. As I said, I think having Carly just come back in this episode would have been better, because you could have more naturally introduced us to all this new stuff, all the new characters and the new backgrounds about older characters. I think you could have introduced us more naturally to them, but yeah, I don't know. Like, there's even like a time jump in this episode, so they could have easily had the beginning of the episode be Carly coming back and reintroducing us to the situation with Freddy and Spencer, and then do a time jump and do more of the other stuff, you know? There's clearly a way that they could have done it better, but it doesn't really bother me too much. I'm glad that the setting things on fire gag is back at it again, although it's really funny to me how the Nickelodeon kids show managed to have real fire on those things. That was real fire on those things that Spencer set on fire. But this show, the show for adults, has to use CGI. I mean, come on. Could you have not cheapened out on that? Why couldn't you just have set things on fire? Like, I don't understand it. Like, if the Nickelodeon kids show could have done it, why couldn't you? I would much rather take a real fire over Spencer's naked ass, honestly. But yeah, that's probably the biggest thing that bothers me about the first episode, outside of the exposition stuff. But overall, again, I enjoyed it. But still, episode 3 is still my favorite. But yeah, now we're gonna get into episode... Oh, wait, I forgot to rate the episode. In terms of a rating, episode 1, for me, it's probably gonna be a 7.9 out of 10, with the better parts of the episode probably getting as high as an 8.1, but the forced exposition stuff is just really, really annoying, and it's the thing that just pisses me off, because they could have done better. Like, even if they didn't want to do what I was saying, they still could have handled the exposition better. But yeah, I don't know. Episode 2. I can definitely see, as I said, how people think that this feels more like an OG iCarly episode, because it does. This kind of stuff are what they usually were doing in the original series, but I don't know, I just don't really care about that do better guy, and it's not necessarily something that I think they explored the idea of that well, of like an internet hater. Like, cool idea, but I genuinely feel like Big Time Rush, which is another show that I really, really like, genuinely handled this better. Because for those of you who don't know, in the fourth season um, of Big Time Rush, the guys are riding in a bus on a tour and they're stuck in traffic, and Kendall finds a hater comment about him and Joe and their eyebrows or something, because they have very wide eyebrows. Both of them. Somebody with very wide and big eyebrows can relate to that. Um, and bushy eyebrows as well. Um, and he finds a hater on the internet, and he kind of gets very angered by it. And over the course of the episode, the guys explain to him, like Logan, James, and Carlos explain to him that there are going to be haters out there. So instead, you should focus on the positive comments. So I feel like genuinely Big Time Rush handled this idea better, and it wasn't even a thing that they ever really tried to focus on or do really well. Like, they genuinely did it better than this. In this episode, we have this guy who apparently hates Carly because she didn't post his video on her web show from years ago, and I'm like, what? And she ends up letting him on iCarly, and he's a complete doofus, and she also kind of liked him. So there's also the relationship drama, which I personally didn't really care about. So ultimately, this episode wasn't really that interesting to me. The best part of it was the reintroduction of Nora and explaining more of her backstory now, what has happened over the years and everything. But again, it feels very shoehorned in. Literally, in the scene where she is reintroduced, Carly just sees her, runs to the other characters, and they ask her, like Millicent, which is Freddy's daughter, asks Carly who the hell she is, and she explains all her backstory, and it feels very unnatural and forced. And if it wasn't for that forced introduction, I probably would have really, really loved her reintroduction. But with that, it really kind of soured my taste on it. But when I heard more of her backstory and what they were saying, what she was saying that she has been doing over the years with like the therapy about not learning not to have to kidnap, not to want to kidnap people again, I'm really hopeful that maybe they are going to make her in kind of like a Gibby kind of character, who is a little crazy and a little weird, but could be kind of friendly to Carly and Freddy. I feel like that could be actually really cool, and it would be a really cool character development. But I doubt that they're going to do that, because from what I've seen on IMDb, she's only credited for one episode, so I don't know if she's gonna appear in any more, but I really hope so. And I honestly don't really care whether people think that's a good idea or not. I personally would find that very interesting if she ends up getting close with Freddy and Carly on genuine terms, not because she's a psycho or whatever. So yeah, that's probably my favorite part of the episode. And also when she ends up climbing on the outside of Carly's apartment, and there you have Carly and Freddy sitting and watching a movie, which, I mean, come on. If that is not a cruddy fan bait, I don't know what is. They looked adorable together. They definitely should be together. Although, I also, on the other side of things, I don't necessarily want to force the idea that just because a guy and a girl are close to each other, they have to be with each other, because I feel like that's a very toxic idea to have about people, but come on. I ship it. And it was really funny when Nora climbed inside and she asked for something, whether she can take it home. And then she asked whether she can take Freddy home. I really like that. That was kind of funny. But yeah, that was pretty much my favorite part of the episode, Nora. And it's only gonna be saving the episode for me if going forward they actually do more with her character, rather than just dangle it in front of us and say, hey, remember this, which is what I hope they're not gonna be doing going forward. Like, I'm okay with them doing it in the episodes that they reintroduce certain characters, but if they're gonna feature the characters more than once, I really hope that they don't just dangling them and repeating the same stuff. I want character development for the characters. And talking about character development, I probably should keep this for the end when I talk about the characters. You know what? Yeah, let's keep it for after I'm done with the episodes and talking about changes to the characters that I don't necessarily like. So yeah, episode 2 for me, not the worst written. As I said, I think episode 1 is worst written, but my least favorite for sure. So in terms of a rating, I give this one an 8.2 out of 10, but in my personal opinion, it's probably something like 7.6 out of 10. But yeah, now we get into the third episode, which in my opinion is both my favorite episode and the best written episode, because it actually explores a really cool idea that the internet has had us deal with over the last few years, and that is kind of cancel culture, but more about apologies and how people fake apologies online and everything. It was actually a really interesting commentary in my opinion. So in the beginning of the episode, we have Carly for some reason spitting out some food that I think Harper gave her, and in the background there's Spencer pointing at his sculpture. And first of all, I don't understand how this is in... How can you make this in any way into a funny meme? But ignoring that, this makes Carly super popular for some reason, because it's apparently a super popular meme and everything. Oh, and by the way, I'm not sure in which episode they did, but they referenced the interesting meme, which I guess it was okay. It didn't really feel forced, at least the first time they did it with Carly. It was like definitely very tongue-in-cheek and a little bit of hello fellow kids kind of thing, but it was okay for the most part. But the second time they did it with Millicent, it really came out a little forced. But yeah, so Carly becomes popular because of that stupid meme, and everybody becomes ends up knowing Spencer as the so Spencer ends up being known as Meatball Brother because of this, not because of his art or anything like that, but because of this stupid meme. He becomes popular because of the stupid meme. And in the episode, he even says that people think that Carly is making the face because of the terrible meatball, but because of the art. So they're not only not knowing him because of his art, but they're also hating on his art because a popular meme said so. And that is a really cool commentary, in my opinion, on the internet, how everything gets taken at face value and not really appreciated properly. And also how on the internet you're not necessarily going to be known for what you want to be known, but sometimes you just get lucky and get noticed because of a different thing. So either you capitalize on that thing, or you just end up being known for that thing and not for the things you wanted to be known. So later on, Spencer asks Carly to do something about this because it's serious, because as I said, he's popular now because of his appearance in the meatball meme, not because of his art. And people are mocking him and everything. And he asks Carly to apologize for what she did, but she says that she didn't do anything wrong. And in a way, I can kind of agree that she didn't do anything wrong, but she also could have not posted the meme, or at least apologized, done a video where she clarified those stuff, so at least people will know that she's not spitting out the food because of the art and everything, and tell people to appreciate it instead, which is what she ends up doing. But the fact that she says she didn't do anything wrong and then she does a fake apology kind of thing really came off really asshole-ish from Carly's side, and it totally pushed me on Space's side of things. And the thing that confuses me the most from people who don't actually think this is the worst episode of the three, like, people are saying that this is not in character for Spencer, and what happens afterwards where he decides to mock internet culture with his sculptures and everything is not in Spencer's characters. Like, are you kidding me? Do you even remember the original thing? Because people are saying that he's gonna be nice to Carly and he's not gonna be something like this. This is genuinely in character for him, and I feel like something like this has been even done in the original show where Spencer was underappreciated or ignored, and Carly had to, at the end of the episode, apologize to him. I'm pretty sure I remember something like that, but I honestly can't confirm or deny something like that. I know there was definitely this kind of thing with Freddy, but I'm pretty sure there was also a Spencer theme, Spencer focused episode with this kind of theming. But correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know. Yeah, this episode for me, because of that whole conflict between Spencer and Carly, is easily my favorite one. It's just fun. There's a lot of jokes, like when Spencer talks to Carly for the first time. My favorite line where he says, "Didn't you?" That's my favorite moment. Just the way he says it is so funny to me. Which is in response to Carly saying that she didn't do anything wrong. Which, again, I think she didn't necessarily do anything wrong, but she also could handle the situation better. So I also really like how that is a little bit of a commentary on YouTuber apologies, because personally sometimes, especially in the case of like Dream and his controversies, I feel like he doesn't have anything to apologize for, but sometimes I feel like expectations for YouTubers' apologies are either too high or just like, what do you want to be done afterwards? Like, when somebody does something wrong on the internet, like, what is supposed to be the thing that you do so your livelihood doesn't get completely destroyed? Because I don't think somebody's livelihood should be destroyed just because they commented something offensive 10 years ago, or just because their fan base is completely toxic, they should be to blame, and as if they're responsible for that fan base, as is the case with YouTubers like Dream. And it's a really nice commentary, is all I'm trying to say. And even later on, when Spencer decides to mock internet culture and everything, and by the way, in that whole sequence, the art place thing features a character named Willow, who I took a long time, but I found out that is played by Josie Toda, who played a character on Jessie from Disney Channel, on the Disney Channel show Jessie. And I actually knew before this that she is trans, but damn, what a glow up, man. Like, I didn't realize she was so grown up at this point, but she looks amazing. I genuinely couldn't even recognize her. She looked slightly familiar, but I just couldn't put it. And she looks amazing, and I really like her feature in this episode. I wish we could have her for more episodes, because she is apparently some kind of social media influencer, so maybe she could be a new Neville. I definitely would enjoy that, because as much as I like seeing the old characters, I would also love to have newer characters. Yeah. I really liked the art exhibit that Spencer does in this episode. Like, for the most part, I've never been too into Spencer's sculptures. Like, they've always been kind of fun to see, but for me, this is the first time where I actually kind of like the commentary that he's doing with his art. Like, it makes sense that the commentary with the sculptures and everything is gonna be as good, this good, because the writing for the show is this good, and it's not like Jerry Trainer is the one coming up with the sculptures and everything. It's probably the writers or whoever, I don't know. But I genuinely really like the commentary with those sculptures, especially the one which says "I am basic," and it has that social media influencer Willow take a picture in front of it. And I love how even Carly acknowledges the fact that she doesn't even realize that Spencer is mocking her with that sculpture. It was really fun. And even the later line by Harper which she uses to take the attention off of Spencer and Carly by screaming that somebody over there is hating on a show that you liked as a child. Like, I really love this kind of self-referential with self-aware humor. It's actually really cool. It definitely has the spirit of iCarly. There's definitely things that could be polished a little more, as we're going to mention once I get to the character section. But on the writing side of things and the social media commentary, it's a big plus for me. I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. In some way, it's probably better than the original series, but we're only 3 episodes in, so you can't really judge it right now. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one. And because of this, I'm also going to give this episode as high as an 8.9 out of 10. I just really enjoyed the commentary in this episode and the conflict between Spencer and Carly. And I genuinely think that it's completely in character because, as I said, some people on Reddit have been saying that, oh, Spencer is never going to be this mean to Carly to the point to mock her in an art exhibit. I mean, Spencer has moments of maturity where he is nice to his sister, but it's not like this is actually gonna harm her in any way. Plus, she kind of deserves it because she is kind of ruining his livelihood, his career, so he's completely in his right to do that to her as well. And I feel like it's completely in line with his character to be a little bit immature about it, you know? But yeah, getting into the character section. I honestly think this is probably the most interesting Carly has been ever. At first, and this might come off a little superficial, but hey, I'm sharing my honest thoughts about this, so if you disagree, that's fine. But if you're gonna hate me for my opinion and dislike this video just because of my opinion, then fuck you. But at first, when I saw how Miranda Cosgrove looks now, I don't know, like, I never really imagined Carly looking like this kind of like a Instagram model kind of look. Like, I'm trying to be as polite as possible describing this, and I don't hate Miranda Cosgrove for how she looks or anything like that, but I just personally don't really like the look of that. She looks like I don't know how to even describe it. Like, to me, she just looks kind of worse in a way, because like in the original series she looks completely natural with natural makeup and everything, and now I don't know why. Maybe it's just how her face has grown to look. I don't know, but I don't know, it's just her lips look a little weird to me. So because of that, I was a little wary about whether I was going to actually enjoy Scarlet, and there were even moments where I wasn't really even buying, like subconsciously I wasn't buying that is Carly. I was feeling that the character is written more like Miranda Cosgrove, not as Carly, but she actually was very much like Carly in these episodes. And as I said, this is probably the most interesting Carly has been ever, because for the most part in the original show she was almost always the straight man to the weird man that was every single other cast member, because Freddy is kind of weird, Spencer is kind of weird, Sam is kind of weird, Gibby is kind of weird. Like, everybody else has some kind of a gimmick to their character, I feel like, and Carly was always the girl, kind of. So now I feel like she has a little bit more of a quirky feel to her character, so to speak. I kind of really enjoy her, actually. For her new best friend, Harper, I was a little wary, as most people were, although I never really gave a shit about the fact that she is black or whatever. And apparently she's also pansexual, which I like that. I'm okay with that. But I actually really enjoyed her. I think she actually has great comedic timing and chemistry with the other characters. And actually, this is one of those cases where I feel like the fact that we're not just introduced to the beginning of the relationship between Harper and Freddy and Spencer and her relationship with the other characters, the fact that we're not just introduced to those kind of stuff as if Carly and Harper were just moving in close to Spencer and Freddy, so Harper was also going to meet Freddy and Spencer right now, I think. And this is one of those things where I feel like the fact that we're not reintroduced to the old characters of Spencer and Freddy at the same time as Carly coming back. And I actually think that this is one of the cases in which the fact that we're not beginning this show how I said, I think it would be better if they did, with Carly just coming back and learning what Freddy and Spencer have been up to, because in that case it would mean that Harper would also be meeting those characters for the first time now. I think this is the case where the fact that we're not doing that is actually better for the characters, because I actually kind of now buy that Spencer has known Harper and Freddy for a long time, and it makes sense that they actually have kind of a chemistry with each other, that they're to the point that their interactions are actually kind of fun. Because I feel like if these characters were introduced to each other in the first episode, I don't know, it would have taken me out of it, I guess, a little bit, but I don't know. I just think she actually fits with the cast really, really well. So next we have Freddy. I honestly probably should have kept him as the final character because I have the most to talk about him, but fuck it, we're gonna go with him. But yeah, I honestly think they're completely mishandling his character, and I don't know why they decided to go with this direction for his character, but I really don't like it. First of all, starting off with the superficial stuff, I don't like how he looks. I don't like the clothes with which he dresses. He dresses like a, I don't know, fancy British middle-aged dude or something, with like the vests and I don't even know what's the word for that, for those clothing. Like, that doesn't feel like Freddy at all. Like, Freddy was always like the button-up shirt kind of guy. Like, it wasn't that the kind of thing that he was wearing throughout most of the show. In the early seasons, he was wearing oversized shirts, from what I remember, with like those sleeves which you have a shorter sleeve which ends about here, and then you have a longer sleeve, which is the kind of shirts that I've been searching to get all my life, but I think I only got one in like 2012 or something. But yeah, I really like those kind of shirts. And now he wears these stupid polos and vests, and I don't really think that suits him at all. I don't like that. And also his hair, I really don't like it. It's the longest it's ever been. And again, all these things might be up to Nathan Kress wanting to look like that, especially with the hair stuff and the beard, but I don't really like how they look on Freddy. I think he genuinely looked better in the later seasons of iCarly. And again, this is superficial stuff, but that's how I feel about it. And since I forgot to talk about Carly and her clothing choices, one of the reasons why I kind of felt like this was more Miranda Cosgrove rather than Carly was because of the clothing choices, but honestly, I've actually grown to like them. They're actually pretty good, because like, you have to remember, it's been 10 years, some clothing choices have changed, and what is trendy and good looking has changed, but my taste doesn't change, so in a way, I still prefer how they used to dress in the original series, especially the later seasons. But for Carly, I'm fine with her clothing choices. For Freddy, no. Just no. Just no. For Harper, I feel like at times she goes on to be a little bit of the stereotypical black friend kind of thing, where she's the one who wears the crazy clothes and everything, because there's I think it was in episode 2 where she's wearing like a pink, I don't even know what's the word for that kind of clothing, but it's very poofy, and she wears it to work? I mean, come on, it looks ridiculous. But in between some of the crazy outfits and some of the more normal ones, I'm overall okay with her wardrobe. But Freddy, no. Nah, just nah. And also, another thing about the Freddy character, I feel like his now kind of useless in the form of iCarly. And talking about iCarly, I guess I should also talk a little bit about that. It's weird how in the original series she used to have her own website and a web show and everything, and now in this series she has a channel and we don't even know on which platform it is, which is kind of what bothers me. And it's kind of cringy whenever she says my channel. I don't know, that just kind of comes off a little bit cringy, but that is, I guess, up to personal preference. But it's a little weird to have her go from having her own web show to having her own channel on a platform and everything. And it makes sense that it's gonna be like that because this is 2021 iCarly, so it's probably gonna be a little bit more accurate to how the internet is right now. Because back in the original iCarly was happening, the internet was kind of growing with the show in a way, and the show did predict some of the stuff that the internet ended up doing, like the YouTuber boxing matches. They predicted that, so that was kind of cool, but they couldn't be one-for-one accurate, and probably wouldn't have been as good if it was one-to-one accurate with what it was at the time. But to have Carly go from a website to a channel and have Freddy go from a giant-ass camera and a whole freaking high-tech setup to just a phone and a laptop, it is a little bit, I don't know what a word that I could even use. Like, it's a little jarring in a way. And considering that there are YouTube channels like Linus Media Group who use very fancy cameras and everything, I feel like he could be made more useful in that regard. Because other than him using the camera to record Carly for like, I don't know, 3 minutes in the first episode, I mean, what has been his contribution to the show, really? It's the only contribution has really been the stupid plot that they've given him in this rebirth of iCarly with his adopted daughter, but I honestly don't really think that fits his character, and I don't think it's that interesting. I saw a comment on Reddit mentioned that they should have swapped the backstories of Spencer and Freddy, and I honestly agree with that completely. I think that would have been more interesting if Spencer was the one with the child, because it could have been a nice foil relationship to the relationship that Spencer has with Carly. Now that Carly is grown up, he has a kid who now is the age that Carly was when the original iCarly started. So it could be kind of interesting to have that. And with Freddy getting rich backstory, that could also be more interesting with that. But I guess iCarly is going to continue to be Freddy misery porn because he's back living with his mom, and the writers can come up with a better idea for his character, I guess. Because like I feel like that would be character development, like Spencer getting a daughter, Freddy getting successful off of a technology startup, Carly getting back to doing her own web show. I feel like you probably could do something there with that, with her maybe doing the show on her own now and everything. That would show character development, but right now, they're not really developing any of the characters. With Carly, I mean, she's an Instagram YouTuber or something, Instagram influencer right now or whatever. Spencer is rich off of his sculptures, which, I mean, he was doing fine with his sculptures in the original series, so I don't really feel like how that really makes that much of a difference with his character. And Freddy is back living with his mom and now just has a different daughter. I don't really see how those things are development, you know? So that is a little bit bothersome, but I'm enjoying the show overall. And I guess I kind of forgot Millicent, but honestly, again, I don't really give too much of a shit about her and the whole storyline with Freddy. The fact that this is Freddy's storyline is just not really that interesting to me. The best part, I guess, of her featuring on the show was probably in episode 3 when she was manipulating Freddy, that she was going to dig out bad things about him and post them on the internet now, so she was going to cancel him. So he was trying to buy her love in a way by buying her stuff, because also apparently years ago he made a comment on the internet or whatever that he never wanted children, and Millicent acted offended about it, even though, so fucking what? Like, people say things all the fucking time. If you checked all the things that I say today with things that I have said 10 years ago, my opinions on life and stuff are completely different from back then. So just because he said that he didn't want kids back then doesn't mean that he doesn't want kids right now. And also, why would he adopt you if he didn't want you, you know? It just doesn't make any sense. But it was the best moment when she revealed, Freddie ended up finding out that she was not actually offended by that comment of his from years ago. So she apologized to him and kinda manipulated him again, and she said, "You're so easy." That was probably my favorite moment because it was genuinely kind of funny. But I just, for the most part, don't really give a shit about that storyline, because it just makes Freddy have his own side story. His story doesn't really have any relation to the other characters. You know what could have been cool? I just came up with such a cool story. So, Freddy has a startup. He creates this new platform for video hosting content. It becomes super popular. So, Freddy has an idea for a startup for a video hosting site. It becomes super popular. Carly, not being happy in her life as it is right now without doing web content stuff and everything, decides that she wants to go back to iCarly, but she doesn't have the rights or whatever to her original site, so she decides to start a channel on this new popular platform. So she finds out that it's actually Freddy who started the platform, so they get back together, and she starts getting popular on the platform. Then in the meantime, there's Spencer, who is living with his now adopted daughter Millicent, who also has an interest in doing influencer stuff and web content and everything. So she becomes competition to Carly, and Spencer has to kind of decide whether he wants to help her or help Carly. When I had that being a little bit of a better backstory or idea for a plot for this reboot show, because right now it's fine, but I feel like it's maybe a little bit too much into the fan fiction territory in a way, and not really even the good kind. Because like, I enjoy it perfectly fine the way it is, but I feel like with that kind of setup and idea, not only the characters are actually kind of developed, but there's actual conflict between the characters that could be kind of interesting, you know? But yeah, overall, pretty good rebirth of a show, but there's definitely ways it could have been done better. But honestly, I'm happy with the fact that it's actually enjoyable and not garbage, so hey. So yeah, before we end this video though, I'm gonna be doing something new that I haven't done before, that I hope I'm gonna continue doing going forward. That being, thanking my first ever patron on Patreon, Omari Bridgman. I don't know if you're gonna be watching this video, but if you are, thank you for subscribing to my Patreon. I hope you enjoy the content over there. And for those of you who don't know, the content that you can get on Patreon that you can't get on my channel is actually mostly just the full-length reactions of my cartoon reactions, the Nostalgia Trip episodes. But other things that you can get at different tiers are a tier 1, it's just for general support, because right now I can't really make any money off of my YouTube channel because I don't have 1,000 subscribers. We're 300 subscribers off of that mark, so hopefully we're gonna hit that by the end of this year, but until then I can't really make any money off of YouTube, so the only way I can do it through Patreon. So if you want to support me, go over there. At level 2 you get a thank you mention at the end of my videos, just like Omari Bridgman. At level 3 you get a thank you mention at the end of my videos and access to full-length reactions of all my cartoon reactions, or at least since I started doing them. At level 4, which is tire that I actually created a few days ago, you can get all these things so far, like I think I mentioned at the end of my videos, full-length reactions, and also the ability to request reactions to K-pop songs and K-pop albums, which is something that you can still get by just commenting on my videos that you want me to check out this or this or this. But by going through my Patreon and subscribing to that tier, or just going for that tier, you will certainly be getting that request done at the first possible time that I can do it. Well, with the YouTube video, it's gonna depend on whether I personally really have an interest in doing so and whether I kinda enjoy it at all. But yeah, and at the final tier, which is tier 5, you also get downloadable version of all my stories to read offline, because for those of you who don't know, I also write stories over on Wattpad. Right now there's only one story with like 5 little chapters or parts or whatever you want to call them, mainly because I just haven't had the time to write, not because I don't want to, but with the YouTube channel, which is my main focus, I just don't really have the time to write. But I do want to write, and I plan to write more in the future, so you can get that as well. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please leave a like and subscribe. Also, check out the description to my Twitter if you want to follow me there, and to my Wattpad where I post my stories, because in addition to doing all these videos on my channel, I'm also a writer. And if you enjoy my stories, or you simply enjoy my videos, you can head over to Patreon, where you can pledge support and help get the channel going, help support me so I can keep writing the stories you enjoy. But if you don't want to do it, that's completely fine. You can still help me out in other ways, like liking this video, subscribing, and especially sharing this video with somebody who you think might enjoy it. And I think it's pretty much it for this video, so hopefully I'm gonna see you in the next one. Bye!